Amid some of the rising levels of measles cases in the United States, some state lawmakers are now looking into methods of forcing parents to vaccinate their children. Such bills have already been introduced in places like New Jersey and Minnesota and Vermont and Washington. This legislation would limit parents from opting out for either religious or other reasons. Correspondent Michele Greenstein has been following this for us, and she's good enough to join us now with what she's been able to learn about this story. Let me tell you something. This is very personal for a lot of people out there. The last time we did this story, people were off the rails on this thing, on both sides. Right.
Well, measles, you know, it affects particularly infants and children. That's who it's the most dangerous for. So it's very natural for people to really want to protect against this. I will just say one thing. In Hawaii, Arizona, Rhode Island, and West Virginia, they're actually doing the opposite of what you just described. They're actually introducing legislation that would broaden exemptions, making it easier for parents to opt out of vaccinations.
What states again?
Hawaii, Arizona, Rhode Island, West Virginia.
And West Virginia. Wow.
Exactly.
Fascinating. Did not know that.
Yeah. So that's new news, so don't feel bad for not knowing that. But yeah, measles is very contagious. It's one of those acute infectious diseases. Just sneezing or coughing, you know, can transmit it from one person to another. And the authorities that you described in New Jersey and other states really seem like this is they really believe this is the right thing to do. Even though the symptoms rarely include the severe things like brain damage and death, a lot of people are saying, hey, even if it's just 1 or 2 cases, why would we not mandatorily vaccinate people? And actually, according to the CDC, measles is on the rise in the U.S. We've had 200 cases this year alone. That doesn't sound like that much of an increase, but last year we had about 300 cases for the whole year, and right now it's March. So definitely an increase happening there. It actually used to be considered eliminated, so the fact that it's resurfacing is kind of a big deal. But the CDC basically says that you need 2 doses of the MMR, of the measles vaccine, to be considered safe. 1 as a baby and 1 from ages 4 to 6, and then you're good. And a lot of people are saying, hey, like, I want to know what's in these vaccines before I put it in my child, and that makes a lot of sense. But the fact is that vaccines save lives. And of course, you know, the measles vaccine, science shows, is successful in lowering incidence of measles. This is undoubtedly true. But what is an actual common fallacy is that vaccinating a population creates a population with lifelong immunity to measles. That's actually not correct. And in fact, outbreaks are consistently occurring in places with that are highly immunization compliant. Here are 3 examples. 1, Texas, 1985. An outbreak occurred even though vaccination requirements for school attendance was thoroughly enforced. 2, Montana, the same year. Outbreak in a school where 98.7% of students were vaccinated. And actually, this led researchers to say that the measles transmission may actually persist despite appropriate vaccination. And the 3rd one is Colorado, 1988. There was a measles outbreak at a college where 98% of the students were vaccinated. They were compliant with the immunization requirement. So even when this is happening in highly vaccinated populations, it's not hard to understand why so many rational people are skeptical of vaccines.
And it comes down to the question of what is most important, making a decision that is good for the whole or making a decision that protects the right of even one single person. It's called a public health policy, which means we're going to do this for the sake of the public. And there are parents out there who will argue from a very personal and a very real standpoint, no, I'm not going to let you make that decision for my child.
Right.
It's my child, not your child.
And there are 2 things I would say to that. One is that the outbreak of measles in the U.S. is kind of overblown by the corporate media. They're reporting on like 1 or 2 cases as if it's the plague. And I, of course, you know, wasn't around during the reporting of the plague. Yeah. But that's speculation.
But those of us older than you remember getting measles, experiencing
But isn't it true that you used to get measles, kind of like you'd get the chicken pox? It was kind of like a rite of passage, and then you'd be immune forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is a bit overblown, and I will say that, you know, a lot of people are rightfully skeptical of Big Pharma's, you know, influence in other areas, but then when it comes to vaccines, for some reason, that same logic doesn't apply.
Michele Greenstein doing a great job as usual. You know, the people on Google, they love you, right?
On Google?
On the Googles.
Oh.
The Googles.
On the Googles.
I'm Rick Sanchez. You found us on YouTube, and that's awesome. But you know what? I'm also live every night at 7 and 8 p.m. Eastern on DirecTV and Dish and cable and satellite, the RT app, and Pluto TV. I'll see you there.